Welcome back to the Pylon YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mike Frisella, and in this video, we will be doing our first mock draft. The NFL season is more than halfway over, and a lot of teams are out of the playoff hunt, and all they can look forward to is to next year. And for those teams who are still very much into this year, still have a ton of playoff hopes still alive, not really too interested in this video yet. They'll be more interested come January, definitely by February. But this is our first mock draft. This type of video will change a lot as we learn more about these prospects and as we see who moves up, who moves down, because the odds are some of these players that will be drafted in this video will not be drafted in the first round come a month or two from now, or may not even be drafted in the first round come April. So we'll see. But I wanted to start doing them now so we can familiarize ourselves, myself and you guys, with the prospects available and who we think which prospects we could watch grow and which prospects we could watch fall into nothingness. But without further ado, let's go ahead and make our first pick. First pick, we have the Detroit Lions. I don't think that this one is we could overthink this too much. I think if there's no quarterback that you can desire at the number one overall pick, and I don't believe that there are any quarterbacks in this class that should be taken number one overall, you go with the best player available. And in that case, it will be Kayvon Thibodeaux, edge rusher out of Oregon. I think he's the best player in the class as of right now, and I think he will be the best player in the class come April. I think that's pretty much the consensus pick, but that could change. We saw someone like Gregory Rousseau, who was a top 10 pick last year, top 10 prospect last year, fall all the way back to the 30th or 29th pick, I believe, to the Buffalo Bills. So we'll see how these players move. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This right here, Kayvon Thibodeaux, is the number one consensus overall pick, and that could change. That could change in a month from now. That could change in 2 months from now. This is very flexible, so we'll see how it goes. Texans have the number 2 pick. Very similar situation. No quarterback that I would take with number 2 overall pick. They have needs at edge and corner. I think with how deep this cornerback class is, there are a ton of teams that need cornerbacks, but there are a ton of cornerbacks to be taken in the first round. And for that reason, I'm going to take Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan. I think he is definitely the consensus number 2 edge rusher in the class. I also think his upside is very similar to TJ Watt. I think he has incredibly high upside. I think he is going to play himself come pro days, come the combine, if they do that this year with COVID and everything. We'll see how it plays out. But I think he does have number 2 overall talent. And edge rusher is becoming a more and more important position in the NFL today. You see, like, all these teams in the front are lacking an edge. That's why it's one of their top needs. But with that being said, let's go to number 3 overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles. This is actually the Miami Dolphins pick, which they traded to the Eagles when the Dolphins wanted to move back up. They traded with the 49ers and they wanted to move back up into the higher, I think, to the pick 6. They wanted to move back up. So they traded with the Eagles. The Eagles have 3 first-round picks. They have a ton of needs. Again, I think they do need a cornerback, and Derek Stingley is sitting there. He's the best cornerback in the class. But I think, again, with how deep this cornerback class is, and they have another pick 3 picks later, I think you go with the best player available at a different need, and that is Kyle Hamilton. If you don't know, I just want to pull this up real quick. Kyle Hamilton is basically a bigger, better version of Jamal Adams. He's 6'4", 220. Here's his background: the athletic freshman of the year 2019, Phil Steele All-American first team, born in Greece. His dad played pro basketball. He is just like a freak athlete. You would be surprised how fast he moves for how big he is. He also is a very good box safety. He could do both. That's why a lot of people are frowning on Kyle Hamilton going in the top 5. But for me, I think if you have this big of a freak, someone who could play a very important position and do way more from that position, and you have 3 first-round picks, I'm going to take him. I think it's the right pick. I think it's, if they need corner, they could address it 3 picks later, and, Kyer Elam will be here, Andrew Booth will be here, etc. So I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton. I think that's definitely the right pick. At pick 4, we have the New York Jets. I don't know why I just forgot their name. Now, this is interesting because Derek Stingley is still on the board, and he is the best cornerback in the class as of right now. I think that will be true come April. But again, you have Zach Wilson, who's getting his butt handed to him this season. He's already hurt, and you have Evan Neal sitting there. But again, you also have George Karlaftis, but you have another first-round pick just a few picks later. For me, I'm a big believer in, especially if you have a young quarterback or you're rebuilding your team, you build the trenches first. But Robert Saleh, defensive-minded head coach, and definitely wants to fix this defense first. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with Derek Stingley. I think if Kyle Hamilton was still on the board, they would go Kyle Hamilton just because of what he could do and what he could bring and how deep this cornerback class is. But pick 5, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a no-brainer to me. Evan Neal, he's sitting right there, his best tackle in the class, and you have Cam Robinson probably leaving in free agency. You need to replace that. Who better than Evan Neal? Jaguars fans, if you don't know who Evan Neal is, I'm sure you do because if you're a Jaguars fan, you're definitely looking at mock drafts already. But he's 6'6", 350. He's easily the best tackle in the class. And he's just going to be able to do everything. He's going to be a starting left tackle. Going to be a great draft pick. Pick 6 is interesting because Washington definitely needs help at quarterback. If you follow this channel, you know that I've never been a believer in the heck is his name? Taylor Heineke. Never believed in Taylor Heineke. Never thought he was the answer. Never thought he was the truth. Never thought he was this Cinderella story. I just never bought into it. And you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has not played yet. And he's only on a 1-year deal. So it begs the question, do you take a quarterback who you want to start, or do you take a quarterback who you want to sit? I think you have to go quarterback here. What's interesting is they could maybe trade back with the Denver Broncos because none of these teams in between here, besides the Eagles, will probably take a quarterback. I highly doubt the Miami Dolphins will, especially with the Deshaun Watson rumors around them and the Panthers. That's why I'm very interested to see how this whole situation plays out with Deshaun. So for the Washington, I can see them trading back. I'm not going to do any mock drafts with trades until come April or March when we kind of know what the landscape of the draft looks like for certain. So for that, if I had to pick right now, I would take Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback. And if not, you definitely could have him. You could re-sign Ryan Fitzpatrick because if Washington doesn't re-sign him, he'll probably retire. If you signed him to like a veterans minimum or something and just have him play and have Matt Corral sit behind them for a few games even, or just for one season, he's going to be way better off the next year. I think he could come in and start right now. It probably would be ugly, but I don't see the harm in that. Next pick, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Need a quarterback, need a cornerback, need both. Andrew Booth from Clemson's right there. I really like Kaiir Elam. He's kind of moving up my personal board that is being developed as I do these mock drafts, so it's very like non-existent but being created at the same time. I like Andrew Booth. I think Kaiir Elam just offers more as a raw prospect. He kind of reminds me a lot of J.C. Horn from last year's draft. But I think it's safe to go. It depends on what happens with Deshaun Watson because Panthers could take a quarterback, but I think they're going to go. Well, we'll get to them. And I think that the Dolphins are going to ride with Tua for one more year if they don't land Watson. But I think they're safe to go cornerback here. And for that reason, I'm going to take Andrew Booth from Clemson just because the scheme tendencies, a mixture of man and zone coverage, and he's projected to be a starting outside corner. They have Darius Slay, who he could definitely learn from and help develop him into a franchise corner. Same could be said with Kaiir Elam, but I think Andrew Booth is just a little bit better right now than Kaiir Elam, even though I think he's, 2 inches smaller? Yeah, 2 inches smaller. Kaiir Elam's 6'2". So we'll take Andrew Booth from Clemson. New York Giants. New York Giants have a ton of needs. I don't really know why wide receivers on there, being that they drafted Kadarius Toney, who already had a breakout game. They have Kenny Golladay, who they can't seem to figure out how to use him the right way. For me, I think the no-brainer pick for the New York Giants is to address the O-line, hopefully fix it for the last time in this draft, because Daniel Jones, say what you want if you're a Giants fan, Daniel Jones has played really good football this year. Not really good, but really good for him and really good for what the Giants kind of expect from him. I'm basing it off the first 3 games when Andrew Thomas was playing for the Giants. Those first 3 games, Daniel Jones PFF had graded him in the top 10 all 3 weeks. Then Andrew Thomas goes out. Daniel Jones gets a concussion, and now he's just kind of fighting for his life back there. So for me, I'm going to take Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. Kenyon Green, he's projected to move to left tackle. I think with how well Andrew Thomas is playing, Kenyon Green can easily fill a role at right tackle. And if he doesn't play tackle, I think he'll be a Pro Bowl guard right away within the first 2 years. So for that reason, I'm going to take Kenyon Green. I think that's absolutely the right pick for the New York Giants. For the Miami Dolphins, they drafted Jalen Phillips last year with their second first-round pick. They took Jalen Waddle with their first-round pick. They need to address the offense. Their O-line is actually doing relatively well. Tua isn't playing bad either. He's just not playing as good as they want him to play. I think the right pick for the Dolphins is to take a wide receiver. And this is where it gets interesting because you have Jalen Waddle, who they are just force-feeding the ball. And he's very effective from the slot. He also could play out wide. I think if I was the Miami Dolphins, I want to keep him in the slot close to Tua because Tua has shown he doesn't really excel at throwing the deep ball. So for me, the 2 picks are Chris Olave out of Ohio State or Drake London out of USC. I think for me, you could also go Garrett Wilson, but I don't think you want to stack 2 slot receivers, as you can see here, projected role slot receiver. So for that, I'm going to go Chris Olave. I think he's one of the best route runners in the class. I think he is going to be able to help Tua right away because you don't have to send him on deep routes. Him and Waddle can both run deep, but they can also play each other's roles very effectively. So that's why I'm taking Chris Olave. I just gave it away. For the New York Jets, I'm going to go ahead and take George Karlaftis edge from Purdue. I think that though the Jets do need help on their offensive line, they are missing Mekhi Becton right now, and their interior O-line is not bad. They just really need to, maybe they could fix that with their – I don't know what their cap space looks like right now, but maybe they could fix that come free agency. But I think George Karlaftis, who's flying up draft boards, is absolutely a very viable pick right there for the New York Jets. Just because the tackle class is pretty shallow, in my opinion. It's a way better interior offensive line and defensive line. But New York Giants have a second first-round pick that they traded from the Jets. I think with this pick, you need to just keep pounding the O-line. And for me, there are 2 picks you can make here. You can either take Ikem Ekwonu, I think that's how you pronounce his name, from NC State. He is flying up boards. He might end up being the best tackle / just offensive line period in the draft. But for me, I think the New York Giants need to fix their center because they had moved Nick Gates to center at the beginning of this year. They haven't addressed it in the draft. Now they traded for Billy Price, who's playing very okay at center. For me, the pick to make is Tyler Lindenbaum out of Iowa. I think he's going to be a phenomenal center. I can see him being a Pro Bowler within the first few years as well. He pinned Tristan Wirfs in a wrestling match, which is pretty cool. But he's amazing, and his scheme to tendency is going to be great for the New York Giants. Run-heavy offense, freak under center alignments, wide zone. And, having a center who is more inept for the run game, this is not a bad thing when you have Saquon Barkley in the backfield, a healthy Saquon Barkley in the backfield, hopefully for the New York Giants. So I'm taking Tyler Lindenbaum, finalize that O-line for the New York Giants, and give it a go this year. This is probably the biggest steal of the draft so far, in my opinion. You have the Minnesota Vikings at pick 12, and you have DeMarvin Leal just sitting here from Texas A&M. I think that is a no-brainer pick. If this is how the draft board pans out, which I think it will, very good shape for the Minnesota Vikings. Then at pick 13, we have the Carolina Panthers, and this is where it gets interesting. I think they absolutely need a left tackle, more than anything. But again, they also really need a quarterback. Sam Darnold has really disappointed. I was a huge Sam Darnold believer. I thought he was going to turn it around, and then he kind of just hoodwinked me for the first 3 weeks, and now he's just trash. So for me, there's 2 right answers, and one is Malik Willis. You let him sit behind Sam Darnold and learn something. But the absolute safest pick, which is I think the best pick, is Ikem Ekwonu from NC State. He's staying in Carolina, flying up draft boards. He's projected to be a starting left tackle in 3 years. I don't know about that. I don't think it's going to take 3 years for him to become a starting left tackle, but he is an absolute monster if you watch any NC State games. I just moved to North Carolina, so I've been watching a ton of NC State, and he is 100% a beast. So I'm going to take Ikem Ekwonu for the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles with their last third-round pick, I think the right answer is Malik Willis, just being that you have Myjai Sanders. I don't know how to say that guy's name. Myjai Sanders, who they definitely need to address their edge. But they also could go interior D-line, being that they are negotiating trade options for Fletcher Cox right now. I'm not a huge fan of picking someone based off of rumors. Plus, there's a whole season. I do think they can ride Jalen Hurts for at least one more year and build around him and see what happens, which probably is the smartest thing to do. But if they do end up trading Fletcher Cox, they're going to have a huge hole on their defensive front, and they're going to kick themselves for passing on Jordan Davis. I'm assuming that this would happen beforehand, but for me, I think you just got to go Malik Willis. He's definitely raw, probably the most raw quarterback prospect in the class. But this kid has wheels. And I think that in a scheme like the Philadelphia Eagles are running right now, high tempo, zone reads, spread offense with RPO, I think Malik Willis will be a better version of Jalen Hurts. So I don't think there's anybody better for him to learn from, unless it was like Lamar Jackson, than Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray. I think that, Malik Willis has the arm, he has the wheels. He could get it done. I think he's just a project player. And, the Eagles are a pretty impatient organization, so hopefully they don't ruin him. But I think that is the pick to make for the Eagles, the third overall pick. Pick 15 with the Denver Broncos, who have definitely need to address their quarterback. However, I just don't think there's anybody taking, because at this point you're reaching, right? Malik Willis is the highest ceiling quarterback, and the most pro-ready Matt Corral is already gone. So at this point, I think you just address a need, and you have Charles Cross sitting here at a Mississippi State who's going to be a very good tackle in the NFL, or it's tough. It's definitely a tough pick. I do need to address corner, excuse me. And you have Kaiir Elam just sitting here. It's a tough pick. I'm going to go with, I think you take Myjai Sanders. I don't know how to pronounce this kid's name, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. I think you take this kid, Myjai Sanders. You just traded Von Miller away. There's definitely a need to get to the quarterback. There's a role to fill here. If you could also go Kenny Pickett, but I think that him being picked at 15 will be reasonable in a few months when more comes out about him. We see what they do with the rest of their season and they see his pro day. But for right now, you cannot take Kenny Pickett at 15. I think he could play himself up there, but I wouldn't do it. So I'm gonna take. This is a tough pick. I think you gotta take Charles Cross. You have to take Charles Cross. Especially because if Drew Lock comes in and plays and just starts slinging, Charles Cross fits that scheme fit. I just don't know. And plus, the Broncos are probably going to get a new coach with Vic Fangio's being more than on the hot seat. So I think that the Bengals would be pissed if Charles Cross was taking one pick ahead of them. But for the Bengals, you have Jordan Davis from Georgia just sitting here to address their second biggest need. So yeah, I'm going to take Jordan Davis for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think that because the next tackle is, this wouldn't be a bad pick if you take this kid from Ohio State. I'm just not going to try to pronounce their names because I'm butchering them, and I'm, yeah. And then I think this is the pick for the Steelers or the Browns, just being that Darian Kinnard from Kentucky this just screams Browns to me. Shotgun offense, high frequency of shifts and motions, zone read power sweeps, smash mouth run game. Who runs the ball more than the Cleveland Browns? Gotta take Darian Kinnard. That is 1,000% the pick. And this is where it gets interesting because the Chiefs defense, I mean, I keep saying this is where it gets interesting, but the Chiefs defense has been horrible. It's been god-awful all season. They need receiver help because McCole Hardman fumbles if you breathe on him. And they need edge help. But they also need cornerback help. I just think that addressing the defense here, if you look right here, dude, it's edge, safety, linebacker, cornerback. So basically everywhere on the defense they need help. I think you have Kaiir Elam sitting here. Best player available, fills a need. You got to take him. Then you go to the Atlanta Falcons, pick 19. They need wide receiver help. They have Calvin Ridley may come back. Who knows? I think that. I mean, it depends if Matt Ryan plays another season. I would just take Garrett Wilson. But if they move off of Matt Ryan or he retires or something, I think you gotta take edge just to round out your team a little bit better. There's no hurt in taking Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati, but I'm going to take Myjai Sanders. Matt Ryan's playing well. So, you got to take Sanders. Just in case, because it's the smartest pick. The smartest pick is to address the need, and edge is their most important need. Now, everything tells me, if I know anything about the Patriots, they will take a corner here, especially with Ahmad Gardner being on the board. However, they just picked off Sam Darnold, I think, 3 times. So they're doing something right on defense. I think their biggest need is they need a deep threat badly, but they also definitely love a slot receiver. You have Garrett Wilson still on the board here from Ohio State. But then if you want a deep threat, because Jacoby Myers just cannot find the end zone, you have Drake London, 6'5". So I don't think you can make a wrong choice here, but being with how the Patriots run their offense with the shallow throws, I'm going to take Garrett Wilson, someone who could separate at a very high level off the line of scrimmage, get open from the slot. I think him and Mac Jones would be a pretty big dynamic duo. Then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, pick 21. I think the pick here is Ahmad Gardner. They need to address a corner. There's no really offensive line available. Desmond Ridder's here, but I think that the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, if I know anything about them, they're going to address this in free agency. I don't think they want to coin flip a quarterback, especially in a bad quarterback class. I don't think they want to burn this first-round pick on nothing, because if it's a bust, it basically is nothing. And quarterback is the highest percentage of busting in the NFL in the draft. I think you go Ahmad Gardner if you go cornerback. If you want to go offensive line, I think you take Petit Frere. Starting right tackle. They need to address it. Scheme fit. It makes sense. Vertical offense, shallow crossers. I really like Darian Kennard for the Steelers, just being with what they do with Najee Harris. But I think when you have Chase Claypool, you have Juju Smith, you have Deontay Johnson, I think it's best bet is just go offensive line. Cornerback is a development piece anyway, and if you're going to bring in, let's say, Aaron Rodgers, you want him to be protected. You want him to be able to make a run right away, and he's going to be able to he's carrying though the Packers defense has been playing very well, he carries out offense, which might actually be worse than what I think their defense is. So I think you got to take offensive line. This is assuming they just find someone in free agency. And then you have the Buffalo Bills. Again, I think the Buffalo Bills really need to address wide receiver. They keep trying to take shortcuts at picking a wide receiver too. You see it with Emmanuel Sanders. They have Gabriel Davis, who is whatever. And you have 2 very good receivers sitting here. You have Treylon Burks from Arkansas, and you have Drake London from USC. 6'5", big body receiver for Josh Allen. Or Treylon Burks, who's 6'3", 225. I don't think you go wrong with either of them. I'm not a huge fan of Cincinnati. I'm just not a huge fan of Cincinnati. I think they're really overrated, and I think a lot of their players will fall in the draft when it gets closer. I think you take Drake London. before the ankle injury, he was like on pace to break so many records in college. I think you just take Drake London. So I'm going to take that guy. And then you have the Saints. Now, the Saints, I'm like 99% positive the Saints are going to ride Jameis for one more year, despite the injury. But you have Sam Howell right here. They also have a very enticing option of Kenny Pickett. So, but then again, you have Ahmad Gardner sitting here, but I think he's going to fall because I don't really believe in Cincinnati. I also don't believe in Desmond Ridder because I don't really think he's played anybody. Again, like going to the Saints is a perfect spot to develop a quarterback. I think the right answer is Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett, in my opinion. They need to address quarterback eventually. Might as well get one of these guys to development. In my opinion, all of these players besides Matt Corral, borderline Matt Corral, are development quarterbacks. So I'm going to take... I think Sam Howell fits their scheme a lot better. Just running shallow. He's surprisingly mobile. He's way more mobile than you would think. And they run a lot of RPO. They have Alvin Kamara, who's their best player. He's going to me, Sam Howell is someone who's going to hit his checkdowns. And Jameis Winston has not done that the most this year. So I would take Sam Howell. Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett definitely is the right answer. I think Kenny Pickett, once we get closer to the season, will be the pick here if he's not taken prior. And we have the Cowboys at pick 24. I like Jaquan Brisker from Penn State for them. I think him or Drake Jackson, but why I would go safety over edge is because we've seen how effective Micah Parsons is lining up off the edge for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why wide receiver is here. They have like literally the best receiving core in the NFL. So for that reason, I'm taking Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. That kid's an absolute beast. Then we have the Raiders at pick 25. They really need a wide receiver, being that Henry Ruggs is going to prison forever. You could take Drake Jackson, but they have Max Crosby is absolutely eating this season. I would go wide receiver. I think Treylon Burks is going to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL. He does have the ACL concern, which might make him fall deeper. But I think if you pair him 6'3" with a Derek Carr, I like that in that offense. I'm not sure. There's no tackle. Drake Jackson would be the best edge available. And then they need corner, but again, I don't really trust Cincinnati. Now, I would take Ahmad Gardner here if I went corner. Again, it depends on who their head coach is next season, because if he's a defensive-minded guy, he might go corner. I'm going to take Treylon Burks. I think that's the right pick. And then for edge, I'm going Drake Jackson from USC. The pick here is either edge rusher or middle linebacker. The Chargers have not been able to stop anybody up the middle. They cannot stop the run game. That's the reason why that Eagles game was even competitive, is they couldn't stop Jalen Hurts or any of their running backs. They cannot stop them. They need a middle linebacker or they need Drake Jackson. I would actually, if I could go back in the last 30 seconds, probably take Devin Lloyd. I think he's going to be very good. Or Nakobe Dean from Georgia. But Drake Jackson, they need edge rusher. Drake Jackson will be very good. He'll be a very good player. 6'4", 250. Yeah, I think he could play linebacker. I like it. Then we have the Bucks. I don't like them going wide receiver. Well, actually, that's not true, because they have Chris Godwin might leave in free agency. He's going to be a free agent this year. They need interior O-line. They need cornerback help. They need interior D-line. I'm gonna take the sauce right here. And then we have the Lions with their second first-round pick. I think this is the Rams pick. Here, I'm going to take Kenny Pickett. It's like Jared Goff Jr. Then we have the Titans. Titans need cornerback help, but at this point, I think Devin Lloyd is the right answer. They need help stopping the run. That's one of the biggest weaknesses that the Titans have. The Titans secondary has been playing very well. They just absolutely bodied the Rams last night, which is a very impressive win. I think they need a middle linebacker. I'm going to take Devin Lloyd, and they need help stopping the run. Talking about stopping the run, the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers need a lot of help, but they especially need wide receiver help with the inevitability of Devontae Adams leaving. You have Jordan Love coming in. You drafted a slot receiver in Amari Rodgers last season. I'm going to take John Dotson. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Wide receiver from Penn State. And then we have the Ravens. The Ravens secondary does need a lot of help. And Trent McDuffie's right here. But, there's always a but. I like their interior O-line. I don't think that's as big of a need as wide receiver or anything like that. Kobe Dean would be a really cool pick, but I don't know if they would do that. I think they just take the corner. They need corner help. All good teams have cornerback depth. They're a team that has the time to develop him. I think that they definitely would take a corner here. Unless someone on the interior D-line skyrockets up the board or falls. And then with the Cardinals being that they're the last pick as of right now, I think, in my opinion, with a luxury pick, after what I've seen the past few seasons, I would never take a running back. We've seen what happened with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Saquon Barkley got drafted into a terrible situation. Najee Harris is panning out, but excuse me. When you look at like James Robinson, Khalil Herbert, those guys, all 6th-round pick. Elijah Mitchell, 6th-round pick. James Robinson was undrafted. I just think that the new luxury pick, in my opinion, should either be a cornerback or an offensive lineman. And you have Trevor Penning sitting right here from Northern Iowa. And I think that like he could come in and play guard and develop into a tackle, which is like best case scenario but he's 6'7", and Kyler Murray is there like a midget for the NFL. So I think you take Trevor Penning. It's just he's a little bit tall for Kyler Murray. I know that sounds really dumb, but it's not as dumb as you'd think. They need a running back, but again, like I'm not reaching for Kenneth Walker in the 1st round because they've revived James Conner's career. They could take the Kobe Dean. At this point, it's best player available. So I'm going to take linebackers. They have I don't know who I want to take. Yeah, I'm going to take the Kobe Dean. I think that's the right pick. But anyway, guys, this was our first mock draft. Let me know what you think about it. Again, like a ton of this is going to change throughout the year. So let me know what you think. I think this is pretty good for doing it live. But I am not a fan of every team, so my knowledge on every team is limited. If you are seeing stuff that I'm not, please tell me why you would take someone else for your favorite team and why, because I like to learn. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Please do all that good stuff, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of your team's pick, and let me know, and let's see if I adjust in the next video. I think that this order might change more just by next week, so let me know what you think. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, or this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and peace!